So I'm not going to spend too much time going through this. Once again, I just want to give you guys a little bit of just a context. And this is what the supply chain looks like in the industry right now. This is a couple months, maybe kind of middle of last year. So there have been a couple changes, but this should give you a pretty clear idea of who the players are and essentially how content is reaching the marketplace. And when you're thinking about your distribution, you're going to want to be thinking, how best to reach that consumer. And I know part of this is certainly identifying your consumer. But from my perspective as a distributor, yes, we have our end user, which is the client, the person who's transacting on the title. But from a producer's film standpoint, really the end user is the distributor, right? You're making a case to a distribution executive, to a distribution entity, to take on the risk of distributing your film, right? Because along with their practice of distribution, they are incurring costs, right? Costs of physical distribution costs. If they're putting up what we call a P&A spend, which is prints and advertising, it's a bit of an archaic term, right? Because it goes back to the days when there were actual prints, but the vast majority of the, screens now have gone from analog to digital. So we don't have the prints, and it's more of kind of the advertising. But that is all material that will be recouped out of whatever revenues you're generating. But that is a risk that a distributor is taking, right? And investing in your film. If you get a minimum guarantee, right, which is what it sounds like, a minimum guarantee that your film will generate X amount of revenue, you'll be getting an advance on future earnings, right? And future revenues. But they, once again, will be able to recoup any money that they're putting forward and giving to you. So a lot of it is, yes, making the sell to the end user, but it is making the sell to the distributor, which means that you need to know who the distributors are. You need to have a really good sense of what your content is, and do your due diligence to find out what pathways to the market are most amenable to your film. If you have a small independent documentary going to someplace like, say, Fox Searchlight is not going to make the most sense, right? Or but if you have a strong indie drama with very kind of auteur sensibility, maybe a place like A24 makes more sense, right? And a lot of this information, this is the great thing about this industry, is so much of it is available, and it is really available if you're willing to look at it. If you're thinking about first of all, locating those distributors, go on to Apple, go into iTunes, start looking at films, comp your films, right? Take a long, hard, honest look at your film as to what you think the film is, what films are similar to your film, and then go and find those films. And then you'll find in each one of those, in each one of the metadata that you'll find when you kind of click through, you'll find the names of distributors and start doing your research. Also using the ranking system and looking at the rankings on iTunes will give you a relative understanding of what's performing in the marketplace. So that's on the far right of your screen. You'll see it ranked all the way down, right? Usually the top 10. And they'll also be broken out right into different verticals, right? So you'll have your main page, and then you'll have your action vertical, you'll have your drama vertical, et cetera, et cetera. And each one of those has a ranking. And though you're not getting the actual kind of raw performance data, because all of that is proprietary. Look, even places like Netflix doesn't share their analytics with the people who are actually putting their films, right, distributing their films through Netflix. But all of that will give you at least a relative understanding of what is performing in the marketplace. Same thing, like if you are one of the few people that still has a cable package, right? Go into your TVOD service. Or if you have a skinny bundle, go into your TVOD service, your cable service, and look at what titles are performing, what titles are there, what titles are getting the most promotion, right? Same thing on iTunes. Who's got a flow case? That's that big band at the top, right? Who's getting into the new and noteworthy carousel? Who's getting into the the editor's choice carousels, et cetera, right? But this is just to give you a sense of what the general supply chain looks like.